after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
This hour brought to you by Spencer Cal. Now, Hunt Palmer. Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Holding down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Thursday. Got Casey Gaines, Jacob Beck back there on the ones and twos. Hope you're moving towards a holiday weekend. This is going to do it for me. I'm out tomorrow. Going to go play some golf over the weekend. We'll watch the selection show on Monday. Come on back to Baton Rouge, and we'll lock it in for a regional as of Tuesday. But LSU's not done. This weekend in the Southeastern Conference Tournament, we'll get you ready for LSU and the Hogs coming up. It's supposed to start about 4:30, and they look to be relatively on time at this point. So that looks to be pretty much on schedule. We'll talk with Andrew Hutchinson, who covers Arkansas up there in Northwest Arkansas, in 15 minutes, get a thought on what the Hogs look like right now. And Andrew and I were texting back and forth this morning, and this is just going to be a great game to enjoy as LSU fans, as Arkansas fans, as baseball fans, because you've got two of the best pitchers in the Southeastern Conference going in this game, and it doesn't really matter who wins. So that's really cool. I hate losing. I hate when LSU loses. It puts me in a terrible mood. If they lose today, I won't be in a terrible mood. Just go out there and play a ball game. Should be very enjoyable. I told you yesterday that I wanted to see LSU play Hagen Smith in Arkansas today purely for the experience of seeing a really tough left-hander, getting in there and making quality at-bats and seeing what you can do against a guy like you'll see down the road when it really counts. So excited to get ready for that one with Andrew Hutchinson. Pro Football Focus ranked the quarterbacks in the NFL. I'm going to tell you where Derek Carr ended up there. LSU's added a basketball transfer. We will chat with Joe Healy in the second hour, as we always do on Thursdays. He's going to join us from the Hoover Met at 2:15. So looking forward to chatting with Joe. Locked and loaded for the next 2 hours. I want to kind of set the scene where things stand in the Southeastern Conference right now as we play on in the SEC tournament. I think all of this is just very relevant to LSU and what this thing is going to look like over the next 2 weeks. Once you get to Omaha, there's so much variability over the last 2 weeks, meaning the regional and the super regional, that forecasting that far out is generally not really worthwhile. Forecasting the regional and super regional, I think, is worth the exercise. So to me, as I look at the SEC, there are 4 teams that have already locked up half of the top 8 national seeds. Arkansas and Florida won the league. They will be top 8 national seeds. Their resumes say it. Their RPIs say it. Their accomplishments say it, which matters to the committee. They're top 8s. LSU is a top 8. You won 7.5 SEC weekends, 18-12, 18-11 in quad 1, 12-6 versus top 25. You know the resume by now. LSU's got a top 8 locked up, and as I believe does Vanderbilt. They're closer. They're on the edge there because they don't have an SEC championship to hang their hat on, and they haven't played great lately because injuries have really hurt them. But they still have a top 8 RPI. They are 21-13 against quad 1, and that's tied for the most quad 1 wins in the country. So Vanderbilt has got a top 8 locked in my opinion. There are 4 more to play with there. Wake's got 1, so that's locked in. I believe Clemson has locked in 1, so there are only 2 more to play with there, and I don't believe the Southeastern Conference has anyone else who is in contention for that. You can talk about Coastal, you can talk about Virginia. There are some other teams we could talk about as top 8s, but that is not relevant to the SEC in my opinion because nobody left can get there. As far as host goes, D1 Baseball put out new projections today, and they've got 4 more hosts in the SEC. They've got Kentucky hosting at 12. They've got South Carolina hosting at 15. They actually got Auburn at 10 and Bama at 11. Kentucky's going to host. The metrics are just too good. If they don't, it would stun me. Just on its face, if you look at Kentucky and you say, okay, they're second in the RPI, they have the number 1 strength of schedule in college baseball, they have 20 Quadrant 1 wins, it would be difficult for me to leave them out of a hosting spot. I don't believe they've earned a top 8 because I don't believe they've beaten enough good teams. They're going to host. They feel that strongly about Auburn and Bama. And I look, and that is an interesting thing with Auburn and South Carolina because Auburn is surging and South Carolina is waning. There are many people that would suggest that how you've played lately matters. You need to play well down the stretch because that's the team you are. And I would say, okay, I understand that, but I think that the games that they played in March should count, especially when they had their full complement of players, which they are getting close to getting back. They played LSU yesterday, and they were only missing one starter from their offense. Now, their catcher went out in the middle of the game, but they were only missing one starter, and the assumption is that Will Sanders is going to pitch next week, and Jack Mahoney pitched today. So they're close to being whole. I think they should be a host. I look at an RPI of 8. I look at a number 3 strength of schedule. I look at 20 quad 1 wins. I look at a team in South Carolina that beat Clemson 2 out of 3 in a home road neutral weekend. Clemson's going to be a top 8. I know they weren't playing as well then, but they're still Clemson. They're still the same guys. And they swept Florida. So that's what a resume. I'm always for, like, who'd you beat? Don't run up a ton of quad 4 wins. Don't sweep the bottom dwellers and get crushed against the great teams. And though South Carolina had their shortcomings in a couple of series and they didn't play very well, they did have 2 real marquee. They beat 2 top 8s, 5 out of 6. And they also split with LSU and then lost one in the SC tournament. But I think South Carolina deserves a host spot, and D1 Baseball's got them there at 15. To contrast that with Auburn, the RPI is about double. It's 16. We'll see. They're playing a top 11 RPI game right now outside of Auburn. So the RPI could go up for Auburn. They could add to their quad 1 wins. They could do that in the next 2 hours. But they're 19, 16, and 1 in quad 1. And they did beat Auburn 2 out of 3. And they beat LSU 2 out of 3. So that's good. And I could see a host. And then Bama's the one that's interesting. Because Bama's best series wins are Auburn and Vandy, which is good, not as good. But their RPI is 11. So I think these are teams in Kentucky, South Carolina, Auburn, and Alabama. You may look at me and go, I don't care if they're a host or not. That's not LSU. I don't care about them. The fact of the matter is that you are going to care who the last 5 hosts are, because that's the supers you're going to be paired with. Maybe they don't like Coastal's lack of quad 1 games. They have a good record. They just haven't played a lot of games. Maybe they don't like that, and they back them up off the top 8. I think there's a chance Coastal gets a top 8, especially if they win their conference tournament, because their RPI is 13, and they do have a winning record in quad 1. But personally, and trust me, I don't know anything about the players who play for Indiana State, but they may get a host site because they're a top 10 RPI at 10. Their non-conference strength of schedule is what you've got to have. You play in the Missouri Valley is 3rd. They're 2-9 against quad 1. They may be a host, and that may be relevant to you because they may be paired with you. If you're the 4 seed, 16, 15, 14, and they're the 13, that's you. But maybe these teams I'm talking about, Kentucky, South Carolina, Auburn, Alabama, maybe one of them is the 13 seed. So these games where they're fighting for hosting spots towards the back end of the host bubble matter to you, the LSU fan. These are the regionals that you're probably going to be paired against. And I'll show you what D1 Baseball thinks right now as far as the back end of the hosting bubble. They've got Indiana State at 16. They've got South Carolina at 15. They've got Boston College at 14. And they've got Miami at 13. They've got Miami paired with LSU. I heard Charlie in his show earlier today. He was talking about, hey, I'd rather not play an SEC team in a super. And I don't know if I heard a reason why, whether he thinks the talent level's better or that they're familiar with the box, and so maybe the intimidation presence isn't there as much. And I don't know what his reasoning was, but I agree with him because it just hurts me worse when you lose to an SEC team. I heard a little bit worse because Florida won the national title in 2017 and not Stanford or Washington State, like Texas Tech, whatever. But there's a real chance as you start to stack these SEC host sites, and there are 8 of them, if the D1 baseball holds, the RPI holds, and what I'm telling you with what I think about these teams holds, that some of those toward the back end are SEC teams. I promise you, I would rather play Indiana State than South Carolina. I promise you, I would rather play Boston College than Auburn. I'm going to talk to Joe Healy about this in hour 2, and it's just food for thought. It's not really, and it may be wrong because I chatted with Hanny about it briefly too, but I noticed over the course of the year that LSU shortstop Jordan Thompson's from San Diego. Really good player, been a 3-year starter at shortstop for LSU, going to be a top 5 round draft pick, I think. Jacob Gonzalez is going to be a top 5 pick in the draft. He's from Southern California, plays for Ole Miss. Jim Jarvis is Alabama shortstop and has been for 4 years. Just a classic Southern California, short, battle ya, makes a routine plays, uniforms dirty, long hair. Like he's got all that you would have for Fullerton shortstop or UC Irvine shortstop or Long Beach State shortstop 15 years ago. Georgia's shortstop is from California. And I know that Alex Bregman's from out there in Albuquerque and Aaron Hill's a California guy and Matt Clark was from California. And LSU's had guys from California come over and play really well. Brad Cressy comes to mind. So it's not like it's unheard of for LSU to pull guys out of California. But I just feel like the power shift towards the Southeast is so strong. And it's draining the other conferences in college baseball. NC State would have had the conference player of the year last year into this year. He plays third base for us now. Thatcher Hurd would have been UCLA's 2 or 3 starter this year. He plays for us now. And I just don't think there are a lot of big-time SEC contributors that are leaving Georgia and Florida and South Carolina to go play for Oregon State, to go play for Arizona State, even to go play for Miami. And I say that to go, like, I'm just looking at these SEC teams, like, I'd probably rather step out and play West Virginia, who's the Big 12 is vomiting all over itself right now in the conference tournament. The 3 conference champions that had a chance to be regional hosts are all losing games. So I'd rather stay away from the SEC, and I'm kind of monitoring this as it goes on to where things may shake out, and you may be paired with a Southeastern Conference team in a Super. I know they got to go win a regional first, but that's kind of the way it looks statistically. There are just a lot of SEC teams bunching up, and they're on the back end of the hosting bubble, and LSU's pretty much planted itself on the front end of the top 8 deal. So it'll be interesting. Still got a lot of baseball to play, though. Auburn and Bama really playing an important game here, I think, to kind of solidify yourself as a host. Because I can still see a situation where the committee looks at it and goes, I'd rather throw the Big 12 a bone. The team won a Big 12 championship. We'll put them in as a top 8, as a top 16. What was Bama's seeding in the SEC? They were what, 7th? What was Bama's seed in the SEC? 9th. They were the 9th seed in the tournament. Do you feel that great about giving them a host? We'll see. Just a thought. We'll get you ready for LSU in Arkansas coming up with Andrew Hutchinson. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
This is Hunt Palmer. Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Bayou Ford has $15,000 off plus 0.9% APR for 60 months on all new 22 Ford F-150 SCA trucks and incredible deals on all remaining 2022 inventory, all with Bayou's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Sandigrove, join us for the Friday edition of Handy Time from Rufino's. We started with Jimmy Odd's game time at 10 a.m. Go all the way until 1 o'clock. Former LSU coach Dan Canterbury is with us, and we're talking SEC baseball. Handy Time, noon weekdays for one more day on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
I know Cole Kublik hates when Auburn-Alabama matchups are termed as the Iron Bowl when it doesn't take place on the football field. So I won't do that. I'll just say that Auburn and Alabama, big interstate rivals, battling in Hoover right now. It is 1-1 between those two teams in the top of the third inning. LSU and Arkansas will follow this game at about 4:30, and it's just going to be an absolute treat to watch these two pitchers toil in Hagen Smith and Paul Skeens. I don't know what the workload will be for both of those guys. That's what we've been speculating about for 2 days now. And Smith has not been a guy that's extended super far anyway, and I don't know what they'll do with Skeens, but those guys are going to be out there to start the game, and it should be an absolute treat to watch. So, we'll talk with Andrew Hutchinson here in just a second. He's on the phone lines now. But I'm curious just about a bunch of things with this Arkansas baseball team. So we've got Andrew Hutchinson now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. He joins us from up there in Northwest Arkansas. Andrew, thanks for the time. How are you?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Doing really, really well. I'm excited to watch these two teams go at it today with their aces on the bump in a game that I don't have to get all nervous about because it doesn't really matter who wins or loses. It should be a treat, though, no?
I'm very much looking forward to Paul Skeens versus Hagen Smith. I mean, this is going to be a lot of fun, I think. I mean, these two dudes are really, really good. I mean, in a normal year, Hagen Smith would probably be getting a lot more hype than he has, but it's hard to compete when you're going head-to-head against Paul Skeens. What he's done this year has just been absolutely unbelievable. So very, very much looking forward to seeing those guys go head-to-head and seeing how it all goes in, as you said, a non-pressure situation.
We'll talk about the game here in a second, but first I want your opinion on this. I think LSU, Arkansas, and South Carolina have kind of felt the brunt of the injury bug here in the SEC. LSU's powered through it with the best ace in college baseball and a lineup that's just been relentless. How has Arkansas managed to get through this ridiculous amount of injuries and put themselves in the position they're in today?
It's really remarkable because they've had different guys step up that were probably guys that I didn't envision playing much, if at all, this year. I mean, you look at the pitching staff. Whenever Brady Tigert first went down back in March, they had a guy named Dylan Carter step up. That he was a guy that I thought maybe he'll pitch here and there, whatever. But he was very, very good filling in, kind of in that role as a bullpen arm. Then of course he goes down, needs Tommy John, just as Brady Tiger's coming back from his injury. Peyton Stovall goes down with a shoulder injury, and Peyton Holt, a guy that's a local kid, a guy that won a state championship as a quarterback at a football powerhouse here in Arkansas. Really good baseball player. That I thought maybe he'll play on midweek games here and there, but he's not going to replace Peyton Stovall at second base. But Stovall gets hurt, he comes in, and all he's done is hit. I mean, I don't know what he's hitting now, but since he's filled in for Stovall, he's hitting like over 400. Just truly remarkable how they've had guys step up in various roles. And Kendall Diggs is a guy that he hit the walk-off home run last night. He was a designated hitter, had to play outfield because of some injuries. Was pretty rough the first couple of games, but by the end of it, he looked pretty confident out there in the outfield. Now he's back at DH because they've got their outfielders back. So it's just really been not just one guy they've leaned on, maybe kind of like LSU has with Paul Skeens and its lineup or whatever. But it's just been a next man up, as cliche as it sounds, mentality at Arkansas.
Speaks to the culture that Dave Van Horn has cultivated. I know what side of the fence I would squarely be on, but I'm curious when you deal with the Arkansas fan base, is there more of we've got an unbelievable baseball coach who gives us a chance every single year and he'll get there eventually, or is there more of they need to get this thing done, they need to win a national championship, everybody else in the division's winning one, he needs to get it done?
Yeah, I think what Mississippi State and Ole Miss have done the last 2 years have kind of amped up that segment of the fan base, and it's almost gotten to the point where it's like, okay, Omaha's cool, but let's go win it. Like, if we don't win it, it's not viewed as a success. I mean, the 21 season, they were number one almost the entire year. They were incredible. Didn't even make it to Omaha, and that year people look back at as almost a failure, and that's sad because it was such an incredible year. But I do think that is a growing segment that think, hey, Dave Van Horn, he just can't win the big one. Maybe he's the next Mike Martin. I hope that isn't the case because, I enjoy covering Dave, and I would like to see him win a national championship, just being around him, cover him for about 10 years now. But it's just so tough. As you know, it's so hard to win a national championship in baseball. You have to not only be good, but you also have to get lucky, get a good draw. And, Arkansas was so close in 2018. That just kind of shows you how difficult it is. You could be that close and still not get it done.
I think LSU fans are starting to realize just how hard it is because they got spoiled for a decade there in the 90s where it was just every summer you just won a trophy, and it's just not the way it goes. But I would suggest that Dave Van Horn will get one eventually. Let's talk about today's game. Hagen Smith, he's been kind of all over the place this year in terms of roles. Starter, Friday night starter, closer, long relief guy. Is he a starter for this team come next week?
Yes. I think so, just because he's their best pitcher.
Yeah.
And the reason he was a closer there for a bit is because they had so many injuries. They just had to figure out a way to manage, to tread water. And they were like, hey, we're going to do everything we possibly can to win game one. And that usually meant starting Hunter Holland, who, in my opinion, is an SEC ace in his own right, even though maybe the numbers don't reflect it, because he's himself has battled an injury, a leg injury that led to some struggles on the mound. Hadn't missed the start or anything, but it's definitely impacted his performance. but they would start him and then turn it over to Hagen Smith. We saw that down in Baton Rouge in Game 1, the game Arkansas won. And that was because they were like, we're going to do everything when we have a chance to win a game, we're going to win it. And then worry about tomorrow. And again, that sounds kind of cliche, but they really treated it like that. There were times where they used Hagen Smith, out of the bullpen in Game 1 where I'm like, man, why are they using him right here? You could save him for tomorrow, get another good start. But then there were times where the bullpen just completely collapsed. Arkansas had a 4-run lead going into a Game 3 at Georgia and blew it. Didn't even record an out. Gave up a grand slam and a walk-off bomb. Vanderbilt, next to last game of the regular season, had a 6-run lead going into the 8th inning and blew it. And it kind of makes sense. Like, man, you've got to have somebody you can count on in the bullpen, and that was who Hagen Smith was. So he's a starter, I think, moving forward, but that just kind of shows you the kind of guy he is. He's willing to kind of change roles depending on what's being needed.
What would you imagine for a pitch count today for Hagen Smith if Dave Van Horn had his way?
That's a good question. He's not going to be extended. He's not going to go out there and throw 100 pitches. I would be stunned if he threw 100 pitches. I would say probably maybe 80 or so, because Dave Van Horn, he would never say this, but he doesn't necessarily want to win the SEC tournament. Like, he wants to win just because he's a competitive guy, but he's not going to go out of his way pitching a lot of guys deep, pitching guys multiple times. I mean, I remember a couple of years ago, Arkansas was playing Vanderbilt, and Kumar Rocker threw like 115 pitches or something like that in the game against Arkansas. And like, Dave Van Horn's not going to do that with his guys. He's not going to work them that deep. And especially a guy like Hagen, who's as important as he is. So I think he'll be a little bit shorter than usual. It's just a matter of how efficient he is, how deep he goes.
What do you make of the Arkansas offense right now? A guy or two who's swinging the bat well and is going to need to carry him the next couple of weeks.
No one is hotter on in this lineup than Brady Slavin. He's got an 11-game hitting streak. He's reached base in 21 straight games. We're starting to see the Brady Slavins we expected to see all year, using all the field and power, things like that. So he's hitting really, really well. They need him. Jared Wagner is a guy that missed, I think, about a month or so with an injury. Came back against Vanderbilt, struggled, hit the big grand slam yesterday. He's a guy that seems to be getting going. A guy that they need to get going is Jace Borfman. He was probably the most consistent hitter all year until the last 2 weekends of the regular season. Went to a really bad slump. I think he had a home run against Vandy, but that was one of his only 2 hits the last 2 weekends. Can't remember what he did yesterday, but he's a guy that they need to get going. He was hitting over 400 well into the regular season. I think he passed the LSU series even. So need to get him going. But if you get Brady Slavin hot, get Jared Wagner going like he was before he got hurt. They've got some dudes in that lineup. Maybe no Dylan Cruz or Tommy White, but they do have some guys that can swing the bat.
It was enough to win the league, so they got plenty swinging the bats. Andrew, thanks so much for your time. Enjoy the ball game this afternoon.
No problem. Looking forward to it anytime.
He is Andrew Hutchison, best of Arkansas sports. He's a managing editor up there. Always good enough with his time with football, baseball, basketball. We always call him Andrew. Andrew always delivers. It's going to be a great game. The deal with Hagen Smith is he has not been like Skeens is generally throwing 100 to 115 pitches like every time out. Hagen Smith's closer to 80, 90 pitches at the high end. Sometimes in those relief outings, it was closer to 50. So he hasn't been a workhorse for them. He's been great. He's got the second most votes for SEC Pitcher of the Year behind Skeens. So he's obviously an excellent pitcher, and he's got great velocity with the fastball. The slider's way good. But you're not going to see him working in deep into the 8th inning today. And we'll see what they decide to do with Skeens. I tend to think it's going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 pitches today. But it's going to be a fun duel for probably about 5 or 6 innings, and then they'll turn it over to the bullpens. And those guys will rest up, and they'll be ready to go for next weekend. But it'll be really exciting when we get to see it. And again, I've reiterated this a couple times over the last 2 days. I think this is really good for LSU's lineup to stand in there against a really tough left-hander, one of the best arms in the country, and take 2 or 3 at-bats today and use that and channel that and put that away for next week when you may face some really talented pitching. I think that was one of the things I wanted as LSU put things to bed to an extent in the Georgia series. I said, okay, what do I want out of the SEC? And one of the things I'd really like to see a couple of top-level arms. I don't know what the bracket's going to look like, but if you could If you could show me Dolander, if you could show me excuse me, if you could show me Hagen Smith or Will Sanders, if you could get you an outing against Sprode or Waldrop, like I would like to see the lineup stand in there against one of those guys. They get that opportunity this afternoon, 3 hours from right now. So very much looking forward to that. If you want to listen to LSU and in Arkansas, as I'll be doing later this afternoon as I drive north, it's Eagle 98.1. It'll be Chris Blair and Doug Thompson on the call. Pregame will crank up at 4 o'clock, unless there's something crazy and they go 18 innings here with Alabama and Auburn, which could happen because it's a one-run ball game early on over there in Hoover. So I'll keep you posted on that game as we move forward throughout the show, and we'll get you up to date on everything that's going on over in Hoover. Still a lot to get to here. LSU's added a basketball player. We'll get to that in hour number 2. Joe Healy's going to join us from Hoover at 2:15 to kind of talk about where things stand with the league teams and just how excited he is to watch LSU and Arkansas here coming up from the Hoover Met. And I've also got some other seeding talk that I want to get to that we'll kind of pigeonhole into the back of this hour because it's a little deep, but this is how sick I am. It's a sickness. I got a whole notebook page for this stuff here. We're going to get to it. But when we come back, PFF ranked every projected starting quarterback in the NFL. Where does David Carr rank in that ranking? Where's Joe Burrow? I'll tell you that next.
This is On Palmer. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
I drove myself to the ER, had heart surgery, and drove myself home 24 hours later, feeling fine. Starting running again after the procedure, I'm getting excited thinking about it. I had no pain, nothing. I felt great. And right then and there, I was like, oh my God, I'm back. I'm back. It's just amazing.
Ochsner Health. Long live you.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $20,000 off new 22 Ram 1500 SCA trucks and incredible deals on all remaining 2022 inventory, all with Bayou's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
The importance of doing this Fortified program and offering it to people down here is, number one, the only real chance you're going to get to do this is when you put on a new roof or build new. And through companies like HUDCO, who's kind of leading the way in this thing, it's going to offer the customers a huge advantage in the insurance market and the price of their insurance.
You know, we're not looking to make a fortune off fortifying. We're trying to give you a better product than our competitor at the moment. I'm trying to do something that he can. I'm trying to give you something better. So a lot of these insurance jobs, you're getting a re-roof, you're only paying your deductible. Let's sit down and talk about the Fortified and let's see what it does to your insurance premium. You're getting a steal.
Yeah.
You're getting a brand new roof and a Fortified certificate for your deductible, essentially. And I think we're rocking and rolling.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Hey, what's what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
All right, let's say ah.
It's Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Thursday's AFR, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana, getting you ready for Tigers and Hogs from Hoover, and recapping Saints OTAs. Join us 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Switch gears to football here. Pro Football Quarterback. That's just not a word at all. Pro Football Focus ranked the quarterbacks 1 to 32 entering into this 2023 season. And I'll just go ahead and give you a couple of the numbers that you're looking at. Joe Burrow is ranked number 3. They've got him behind Allen and Mahomes, which I think is fine. I would probably put him ahead of Allen, but I think it's fine to put him right there. And then you want to know where's Derek Carr. And he's right where you would imagine he would be. He's at number 14. The blurb under Derek Carr says last year's 66.6 grade was the lowest of Carr's career outside of his rookie season. It was supposed to be a solid season. Carr's big plays declined. He was noticeably less accurate overall. His adjusted completion rate dropped by more than 6 percentage points from the year before, his lowest level since he was a rookie. That likely represents the floor for Carr's play, and he's typically been a borderline top 10 player over his career. I don't think any of that is unfair. I think outside of his rookie year, which you never expect much from rookie quarterbacks in their first year, he's been a very fine player. Fine, not excellent, not elite, not championship caliber, just a fine player. And that's where you would find him at 14. And as I look at this, and if you want to look at rankings, I think the best thing you can say about Derek Carr's ranking at 14 is that it's significantly better than Bryce Young at 25. It's significantly better than Baker Mayfield at 28. And it's significantly better than Desmond Ridder at 31. Fair? That's the best thing about Derek Carr is that the other 3 quarterbacks are way down at the back of the list. As I kind of approach it, I look at these quarterbacks in some subsets and some categories. The first category I'd look at is we are in a 10-year championship window with a franchise quarterback. And, of course, that is the top 3 with Mahomes, Allen, and Burrow. They're all in the AFC. They're all great. You could toss Justin Herbert in there if you wanted to, and I wouldn't yell at you. You could toss Lamar Jackson in there if you wanted to. I wouldn't yell at you. You could toss Jalen Hurts in there, and I wouldn't yell at you. But the top of that tier, that we're in a 10-year championship window, is smaller than that tier as a whole. I think Aaron Rodgers is probably in his own category. We're trying to catch on right at the end and catch lightning in a bottle. It's the Peyton Manning category. It's the Tom Brady category. You get the picture. But he's in a category probably of his own. He's 5th on this list, incidentally. And then you would look at teams that are looking like, is it that great? Maybe not, but I don't really want to try again. This is good. We're good. That's a category. It's a lot of words for a category, but that's a category. It's the, it's not that awesome, but I don't really want to go into the draft again. We're good. That's the Kirk Cousins category. That's the Dak Prescott category. That's probably the Tua category. And that is squarely the Derek Carr, Geno Smith, Jared Goff, Daniel Jones category. Like, that's where they are. Some of them have a higher upside. Some of them are older than others. Some are younger than others. Some of their statistics have been a little different over time. But that's kind of where the Saints are. And so the question would be, are you comfortable in that spot? I think the place that Matt and I have been pretty consistently is that it's not where I'd like to be. But, Matt Stafford was probably in that category once upon a time. And he won a championship. And Joe Flacco was probably in that category one time, and he won a championship. And so it can be done, but you've got to put together an unbelievable roster. And that's where the Saints fall short. And that's why I didn't love the signing of Carr. If you sign Derek Carr with the roster right now that the Eagles or Jets, some of those teams that have like really top-end defenses and some young, exciting playmakers, then okay, like you can Matt Stafford this thing. The Saints got run all over last year for the majority of the year. The Saints' offensive line has significant questions entering this year and moving forward. Like, that's where it's a little unsettling. Like, would I rather have, Jordan Love or Derek Carr as I'm scrolling through this thing? Like, for this coming season, like 100%, I'd rather have Derek Carr. Like, not even a question. But is there a chance Derek Carr greatly improves his ability and production and becomes a top 5 quarterback in the league? No. That's not going to happen. Is there a chance Jordan Love greatly elevates his level of play and becomes a top 5 quarterback in the league? Yeah. I'd bet plenty against it, but it's there. And ultimately, that's where you want to be. You want to be in that top tier I was talking about where, okay, we've got a decade. It's just very hard. It's very hard. It's the point I just made with Andrew Hutchinson, where when you're in it, you don't realize how hard it is. Andrew's talking about how hard it is to win in Omaha. And LSU fans, now that we've won one national championship in 30 years, in 23 years, we've won one, they realize, like, yeah, it is hard to do. When you're winning 1 million in a row, it doesn't seem hard. When you've got Drew Brees in New Orleans, it doesn't seem hard to get that franchise quarterback. Just go get the next one. But then players come and go, and losses come and go, and seasons come and go. And you're like, man, it's really hard to get that guy. So again, I understand where it makes sense to add Derek Carr because you become a better football team, and look at the 3 that I rattled off before that are in your division that are way down the list. But maybe Bryce Young's a dude. Maybe Sam Ritter's a dude. Desmond Ritter's a dude. Maybe Desmond Ritter's a dude. So the outlook for 2023 is okay for the Saints. I just don't know what it looks like for 24, 25, 26, 27. Just feels like there's a ceiling, and it feels like I'm bumping my head on it when I talk about Derek Carr. And you're curious to find out, how volatile this list can be. Can Daniel Jones move from 17 to 6? Can Justin Fields move from 18 to 5? Ryan Tannehill, Russell Wilson, they're all down at 19, 20, and that's kind of the Carr category. They can get you in the right play. They're not going to be intimidated playing in front of 70,000 people. Going to be a good locker room guy. But is there great play left? That's the question. It is fascinating. It's interesting for talk radio. But as I look at this, I'm pretty much right in lockstep with Pro Football Focus saying, okay, 14th, that's about right for Carr. And I didn't love spending $100 million on it, but the fact of the matter is that spending $100 million on your quarterback puts it at about 14th. Justin Herbert, when he gets his new deal, is going to get more than $100 million. Josh Allen, more than $100 million. Patrick Mahomes, more than $100 million. Lamar Jackson, more than $100 million. And they're all ahead of Carr. So for the market value, you paid about right, but it just doesn't inspire me. Just doesn't inspire me to have Derek Carr under center. I think there are Saints fans that feel otherwise, but it'll be a fascinating test case through 6 or 8 weeks of the season. That schedule's manageable. The other quarterbacks in your division stink. Maybe he proves me wrong. I would love it. It would make December a lot more fun around here if the Saints were making a move. just doesn't feel like they are. We'll see. We got a lot more Saints to get to over the summer, and we'll continue to check in on OTAs with Sharif every Tuesday and monitor the black and gold as they move through this portion of the calendar. All right, when we come back to close out hour one, we're talking about trying to win a national championship in baseball, right? And to do that, you've got to get through a regional. I can't tell you who is going to be in LSU's regional. That's for the committee to decide in a couple days. But I can give you some names of some teams that make a lot of sense and update you on what they're doing right now. I'll do that next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
LWCC is Louisiana Loyal, elevating and celebrating champions of Louisiana. Had a great visit with my friends over at LWCC earlier this week. We were talking about Acadian Companies, and they're an unbelievable champion of Louisiana. They were founded in 1971 by a duo who recognized that there needed to be some local emergency medical support, and Acadian quickly established itself as an early industry trailblazer. We know Acadian from the great work they do with their ambulance service. They're out there. You see the ambulances all the time. However, they do some other great things in the community. One is their Hometown Heroes initiatives that partners with local high schools to train and prepare students for a career as a licensed EMT. And that, one, provides high school students with a career path, which is phenomenal. And two, makes a difference in people's lives. They're saving lives with that career path. That's what makes Acadian a champion of Louisiana. If you know a champion of Louisiana, we want to tell their story. Go to lwcc.com/champions and check out all the champions that we've highlighted on this show that are right there on the website, and then nominate a champion of Louisiana. Could be a nonprofit, could be a company, could be a person. We're happy to do it all, and LWCC gives us that opportunity. Acadian Companies is a champion of Louisiana. LWCC is Louisiana Loyal.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, anytime. Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
Hello, Samantha, dear, I hope you're feeling fine. And it won't be long until I'm with you all the time. But until then, I spend my money up right down on my last dime.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground.
Me, Jimmy Ott and Charles Henniger for the Thursday edition of Game Time, 6 to 8 p.m. from the original walk-ons on Burbank. Colucci time as well. That's Game Time, 6 to 8 p.m. Thursday from walk-ons on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All right, the segment's 5 minutes. It's not meant to be 10, 15, 20-minute segment. It's not meant to be a huge bone to chew on. It's just something that I think you, the listener, are probably not paying a lot of attention to, and I can shed a little bit of light on it, even though it's probably a fruitless exercise. That's why we only spend 5 minutes on it. Okay. We know that LSU has been sent to Corvallis, Oregon, and Eugene, Oregon, and L.A., in the last 10 years, right, for regionals. We also know that Northwestern State was up there with LSU in Corvallis. So it's not always regional. We know that LSU has gotten visits in regional from Oregon State, from Utah Valley. Northeastern came to the old box. You've seen teams from all over the place go anywhere in regionals. It's very common. However, it's also very common for the regionals to be a little bit regional. Since LSU, since 2008, LSU, UNO came in 08. We've seen Louisiana's Lafayette here a couple times, once in 13. We've seen Tulane here a few years ago. We've seen Southeastern here. ULM was a 4 seed here. Southern was a 4 seed here. Like the in-state teams, when they make the regional, oftentimes are sent to Baton Rouge. Like that happens frequently. So I just pay attention to that for a couple of reasons this week of the year. I don't know really ever what any of the Louisiana teams are doing in their conference slates, unless they play here in a midweek and I look up their schedule. But like that is irrelevant because they're all not going to be at-larges. Every once in a while, Tulane or ULL or Southeastern gets an at-large. But we're talking about conference champions and automatic qualifiers that have to be in the tournament and have to be sent somewhere. So I monitor the SWAC tournament. I do. Because if LSU gets the SWAC champion on Friday, that changes your plans for the weekend. I'm well aware that Jackson State went to Louisiana Lafayette and beat them on a Friday in a 1-4 game. I'm well aware that Alabama State has had a solid program for a few years. But I monitor Southern and Grambling in the SWAC tournament because if they win the tournament, it's not unlikely that they would be sent to Baton Rouge. Southern and Grambling both won their first game in the SWAC tournament and play each other tonight. So one of those two teams is going to be 2-0 tomorrow. Worth monitoring, and I think something that would change LSU's pitching plans if Southern or Grambling came out of the SWAC tournament. Alabama State is the best team in that league by a long shot, but this is baseball. You never know what's going to happen. So I monitor the SWAC tournament for sure when I know LSU is going to host, and right now Southern and Grambling are in a pretty good spot. One of them's going to lose today, but one of them is going to be 2-0 after 2 days of the tournament. The Southland is a tournament I'm monitoring because it's got a ton of Louisiana teams in it. And I'll tell you this. McNeese has a pitcher named Grant Rogers. He is the Southland Conference Pitcher of the Year. He was 12-1 with a 1.82 ERA. I've only seen 2 highlights of Grant Rogers throwing baseballs in my entire life. I can't give you an entire scouting report on him. I know if you go out there and have an ERA under 2 in this era of college baseball, you're doing something correctly. And I can tell you, if McNeese were to win the Southern Conference Tournament and Grant Rogers was pitching in Game 1, that would be a different game plan than LSU if they were playing the SWAC champion. Now, McNeese lost yesterday in their second Southland Conference game to Nichols. McNeese beat Incarnate Word today. So they're on the brink here, and they're going to have to win a couple games in a row. But McNeese is a team to look for if they win the Southland because they have an ace. He may not be very good. I'm assuming he is if his ERA is 1.82. So I'm looking at the Southland as well. If you look at the Southland, Northwestern State is 1-0 in that tournament. UNO is 1-0 in that tournament, and Nichols is 1-0 in that tournament. Nichols and Lamar are about to play here in about an hour and change. UNO and Northwestern State will play this afternoon. A lot of Louisiana teams in the mix there, and so that's potential 4 seed for the Baton Rouge Regional. Nichols, UNO, Northwestern State, McNeese. You get the picture. Last one, Sun Belt. Louisiana Lafayette beat Texas State last night. They get Coastal tonight. If Louisiana Lafayette beats Coastal, who is a top 15 RPI, I think ULL is going to get in the NCAA tournament. D1 Baseball had them as the first team out. Their resume stinks to me, but the bubble is terrible. ULL has won 21 games against Quad 4. Their RPI is 61. That's awful. But if they were to beat Coastal, that RPI is going to get a bump for sure. And I think it's possible Louisiana Lafayette could get sent to LSU as a 3 seed as an at-large bid. They need to beat Coastal tonight to feel good about it. You lose that game, and it's not going to hurt your RPI, but what's on the resume? I got a bunch of Quad 4 wins and a terrible RPI. That's not great. So I'm monitoring the 4 seeds. You don't have to. You don't have to pay attention to Southland Conference or SWAC scores. I got you covered there. But I'm just kind of making a look at it because that does change the way things look as LSU's trying to win a national championship starting next week. We'll see who gets sent here as a 4. Got eyes on that SWAC tournament, I'm telling y'all. When we come back after Sports Center, LSU added a pretty big piece to the basketball puzzle today. I'll tell you who next.
Bayou Ford has $15,000 off plus 0.9% APR for 60 months on all new 22 Ford F-150 SCA trucks and incredible deals on all remaining 2022 inventory. All with Bayou's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Turn my music high, 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 yeah. You don't know what you're doing. Sure I do. I'm from the streets where the hood swallow on me. Bullets will follow on me. There's so much that you could run the slalom. The cops comb this top to bottom. They say that we are prone to violence, but it's home sweet home. With personalities clashing, chrome meets chrome. Prices up and down like it's Wall Street.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
The best-kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
This is SportsCenter.
Finals tonight in Boston. The Celtics won Game 4 to extend the series, but they lost the first 2 games at home. And ESPN's Vince Carter says Boston still needs work.
They're going to have to find a way. And first and foremost, they're going to have to defend and take care of the basketball. Jason Tatum played great, but 5 turnovers. He had half of their turnovers. And you can't have that, particularly if you don't play well at home.
Vince Carter on Get Up. Heat guard Gabe Vincent is out for tonight's game with a left ankle sprain. Our coverage of Game 5 starts at 8 Eastern here on ESPN Radio. Over on ESPN TV at 8 Eastern tonight, it's Game 4 of the Stanley Cup Playoff West Final in Dallas. The Golden Knights leading the Stars 3-0. The Jaguars signed kicker Brandon McManus, who was cut by the Broncos 2 days ago after 9 seasons in Denver. McManus had been the last remaining player on the Broncos roster from the Super Bowl 50 championship team.
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. They're close, convenient, and have the parts you need fast, along with excellent customer service from professional parts people you can trust. Stop by your local O'Reilly Auto Parts today or visit O'ReillyAuto.com.
Now, Hunt Palmer. Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Holding down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour 2 from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city. Working towards a holiday weekend. Hopefully a long weekend for the majority of you. And we're getting close. Score check from Hoover, Alabama 5, Auburn 1 as they play on in the 5th inning in Hoover. Those two teams kind of on the hosting bubble, and I think would do themselves very well to win another ball game here. I think D1 really believes both of them will host. Very well may, but I think winning makes you feel a little bit better, so we'll keep monitoring that one over the next hour here. I want to start with basketball here before we get to Joe Healy in 15 minutes from Hoover. If I told you that LSU added another transfer for this coming basketball season, and he had played in a Power 5 league, averaged about 7 minutes per game, and didn't score in double figures a single time last year, what would you say? Well, that guy's not going to help at all. He played 7 minutes a game where? And he couldn't score? Seems like they just kicked him to the curb and were taking scraps. I could phrase it that way. What if I told you that LSU was adding to their program a 6'9" forward with elite athleticism who was a McDonald's All-American and a top 15 national player who played for Kentucky the last 2 years? You would go, whoa, amazing. This guy's going to be the best player on the team. And both of those scenarios that I just laid out for you are true, and the actual take is somewhere down the middle. Was Damian Collins committed to LSU today to play for Matt McMahon and the Tigers this coming basketball season? He is 6'9", 215 pounds. He was McDonald's All-American, a top 15 player in the country. He has played 2 years for Kentucky. He also, as a freshman, played 7 minutes a game. As a sophomore, played 7 minutes per game. And last season, as a sophomore, in 25 games, never scored in double figures. So you can take it any way you want. I'm, as generally is the case, going to basically split it down the middle. Damian Collins is an incredibly gifted basketball player. He's not a great scorer or ball handler. He's not a great shooter, but he's long, he's athletic, he's very active. He's got a ton of things you can't coach. And he's got some basketball skill to him. His freshman year, he's playing behind Oscar Tshiebwe, and he didn't get a lot of minutes. He was a guy down the bench, which happens to five-star freshmen at Kentucky. Sometimes there are guys in front of you that are pretty good. The National Player of the Year is pretty good. And Sheway came back, but Collins stuck around for year 2. And they went to the Bahamas the summer before his sophomore year, which was the summer of 2022, and he was a standout for them. He generated a ton of buzz on that trip. Kentucky hosted a pro day in the fall, in October, and he was garnering a ton of buzz from NBA scouts because of the things I'm talking about. 6'9", can really jump, long arms, blocks shots, rebounds, active, runs the floor. A lot of really good things. And then a couple things happened in his sophomore year. In November, his dad, who's very close with, Ben, had moved to Kentucky to be close to his son. And he died unexpectedly. And it really hit Damian Collins hard, according to the stories I read this morning. Went back and read a couple from the Lexington Herald from On3. It really affected him. And John Calipari said in a press conference that Damian Collins, who's already 6'9", just over 200 pounds, is a thin guy, lost 15 pounds during the grieving process when his dad passed away. He missed the first 2 games, wasn't in shape to play, came back, fell behind, and then in January, after he returned to the team, was trying to get into the swing of things, hurt his foot and missed 3 weeks. Well, at that point, you're in the middle of February. You're trying to make a push into March, and Kentucky's got enough guys where they can kind of leave you on the bench if you're just not ready to help. And he wasn't. So he averaged 7.5 minutes per game in 25 games. But I turned on the highlights, and I looked at the player. And what he is very evident. What he can be debated. I don't know. The ceiling's really high. What he becomes at LSU can be debated. What he is and has been cannot. It's right there on the tape and in the stat page. He does some things that this LSU roster, as constituted, really struggle with. This is an LSU roster that has some front court pieces, but like Will Baker is the main front court piece, and he's a scorer. He's a technician on the block. He's got a soft hands, a good jump shot, and he can score. He doesn't block shots. He doesn't protect the rim. He's not a great rebounder. He's a 6'11" scoring player. Face up, pick and pop, pick and roll, on the block, jump hooks, 10-footers. You get the picture. That's Will Baker. That's not Damian Collins. Damian Collins is 6'9", 215, and he blocks shots. You look at KJ Williams led LSU in shots blocked last year. He had 26. He had 26 blocks on the year in 1,083 minutes of action. 1,083 minutes for KJ for 26 blocks. Collins blocked 30 shots at Kentucky in 2 years in 395 minutes, a third of the playing time. It's about 3 blocks a game when you average it to 40 minutes. If you average it down to like 27, 28 minutes, he's blocking a lot of shots when he's on the floor. He is really active around the rim. You see him in the Kentucky games catching lobs, put back dunks, blocking shots at the rim, elevating in fast break opportunities. And Will Baker's not going to do that either. And while Jalen Reed is a really talented player, he kind of plays like a guard right now, and he's not necessarily as comfortable around the rim. Jalen Reed wants to take the ball at the three-point line and drive to the bucket. He wasn't great at it last year. He was really good in high school, and we'll see if he develops but he's not a rim protector at this point either. Derek Fountain was not a great rim protector for LSU. He gave LSU good minutes last year. He's 6'8", had a crazy game, I think, against Georgia where he scored almost 30 points. And he'll rebound, but he's not. Damian Collins will block shots. You turn on the highlights from Kentucky, he's blocking shots at the rim on 40% of the highlights. 45% of them are him dunking on people. Then you got a couple where he's running the floor, throwing down dunks, and making a couple 10-footers. He's not a polished offensive player. Guess what? LSU doesn't need polished offensive players. They've got him. Jalen Cook's plenty polished offensively. He can score. Will Baker's plenty polished offensively. He can score. There are other players that on this roster that can put balls in the bucket. Jordan Wright can score. Collins does the things that they can't do. Protects the rim, blocks shots, rebounds, dunks. And he's a proven commodity in SEC play. He's done it in SEC play. Had a really, really good game against South Carolina this year in a game Kentucky incidentally lost. They played him 21 minutes in that game, and he was effective. So this is a good ad by Matt McMahon. This fills a hole. What have you heard me say as they've added to this basketball roster over the last 3 months? I've said, okay, he can score. He can handle the ball. He can create his own shot. He's a scorer. He's polished offensively. Who's going to guard somebody? Okay, nice ad with Will Baker. He's probably going to average 16 points a game. What happens when they got guys driving at the rim? Damian Collins. Hopefully, new scenery, kind of turning a page in his life, putting the tragedy behind him, getting in shape, putting on some weight. He blossoms into that top 15 player he was in the country. He's probably not going to blossom into a first-round pick, but he could. And he definitely adds something that you don't have on this team right now, which I think is great moving forward. I think Damian Collins is worth a win or two for this team. I do. If you thought they were a 6-win team, I think they could be 8 or 9. If you thought they were 7, I think they could be 8 or 9. I think it's a really nice ad for LSU. Again, I don't know this kid, and I've watched him play a little bit, but you read the stories about him. John Calipari has nothing but great things to say about Damian Collins. He got dealt a really, really tough hand last year in what was supposed to be kind of a breakout year for him. Maybe that breakout year comes right here in Baton Rouge next year. I think it's a great ad for Matt McMahon, and I think one that should impact the team moving forward in the fall, and certainly when the conference play strikes up in the spring. So Damian Collins, former McDonald's All-American, 6'9", forward, joining the LSU basketball program, he announced today. All right, Auburn just cranked one out of the yard in Hoover. It is 5-2 Alabama as they play on in the 6th inning. Joe Healy is, I believe, in the press box of the Hoover Met. If he is, there's probably lots of Golden Flake chips there. There's a couple of fountains where you can get some drinks there. And they put out lunch, which is usually barbecue for the media, which I've consumed my fair share of over the 2 years I've covered the SEC baseball tournament. But I want him to put the Golden Flakes down, not deal with the barbecue, deal with the fountain drinks, answer his phone. We'll talk to him about the SEC and LSU and Arkansas coming up next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
This is Hunt Palmer. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
In for live play-by-play of the SEC baseball tournament, starting with the quarterfinals Friday night at 6, then the semifinals Saturday at noon, and the championship game Sunday afternoon at 2, right here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
5-3 Alabama as they play on in Hoover. They lead in-state Auburn, in what should be a pretty good environment over at the Hoover Met. That's where we're headed here on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Joe Healy, our guy from D1 Baseball, jumps aboard. You must be living right, Joe. Y'all gotten some good weather the last couple of days.
Yeah, man. Turns out I'm pretty popular around here, if for no other reason than when I tell people it's my first time, they look at the weather and say, well, you can come back anytime. Outside of that first day, we had a couple-hour delay there, but honestly, that wasn't too bad because we were on time otherwise. And, yeah, I mean, today, beautiful day the last couple of days. Nice, 70s, low 80s temperatures, a little bit of a breeze. Can't ask for much more.
What's your first time been like? What's the Hoover Met experience been like? The fan bases? What's the vibes?
I mean, it's great. I mean, the quality of the baseball is just unmatched. Even those early days of the tournament where they're throwing midweek guys and relievers and spot starts and all that. I mean, there's just so much on the line early in that tournament for those teams on day one. And the atmosphere is incredible. And it's, there's a larger discussion going on, seems like year after year about, should this tournament stay here? Should we look at playing it somewhere with a roof? Arlington comes up a lot in this conversation. And look, I get the pros of that. I understand why they might want to do that, but you would lose something like the game last night against Florida and Alabama. Look, I'm not great about, I couldn't rattle off the top 5 games I've ever watched in person, but because my memory doesn't work like that, but I'm pretty certain that was one of the best 5 to 10 games I've ever seen live. And a lot of it was because of the atmosphere. It wasn't just Alabama packing the house, although they did. It was Florida fans traveling really well. And you move that to Arlington or anywhere else in a bigger facility, and you're just not going to get that kind of atmosphere. So something would be lost. But I've enjoyed the time for that because it's still a community event. Fans from all the different teams in the area come and fill this place up and make for a great atmosphere, even at 12:30 in the afternoon on a Thursday, which is what we have right now.
Yeah, and you're missing 2 of the better traveling fan bases in Mississippi State and Ole Miss, who generally do a good job of bringing some folks. But I would imagine the atmosphere today really good with the 2 hometown teams, Alabama and Auburn, and then LSU and Arkansas should have a pretty good festive environment as well. I wanted to get a big picture question to you before we started talking individual things. I noticed over the last 3 weeks that, and there may be more, you can correct me if there are more, but I look at Jordan Thompson playing shortstop for LSU. I look at Jacob Gonzalez playing shortstop for Ole Miss. I look at Jim Jarvis at Alabama, who is all these guys are from California, as you know, and Sebastian Murillo from Georgia. All these shortstops at these SEC schools are from California. And I wonder if that would have been the case 15 years ago, or if those guys would have been at Irvine or Fullerton or Long Beach State or one of those schools out west, and instead for the SEC network and the 10,000 seat stadiums and the charter flights and all that kind of stuff. If that's what's hurting West Coast baseball, which hasn't been as represented as I would like over the last 5 or 6 years in the top eights and in Omaha.
Yeah, I think you're onto something. I think it certainly is a factor. And look, I'm with you. Like, don't get me wrong. I cover the SEC for a living. I love the passion, but college baseball generally is healthier when the West Coast is involved, like they have been historically, when all regions are involved and playing well. So yeah, I want that as well, like you do. But you're absolutely right. I mean, 25, 30 years ago, Jacob Gonzalez is playing at USC.
Yeah.
15 years ago, maybe he's at UCLA, right? So that is a factor, and it's not just a Pac-12 problem. When you look at the Pac-12, and that might be the primary culprit here, ASU is down. Arizona's kind of up and down. They've been to Omaha a couple times in recent years. They tend to be pretty up and down. The LA schools, UCLA now hasn't been to Omaha in about a decade, and USC has been basically ancient history in terms of last time they've gone. So that's what people kind of point to. But just as big of an issue is teams like you rattled off, Fullerton, UC Irvine, Long Beach State. Those were the types of programs that they were finding players diamonds in the rough out on the West Coast and getting them to come to those programs. And they were going to Omaha as a result. But the Big West has failed to kind of capitalize on that. Fullerton and Long Beach in particular succeeded at a time in college baseball history when there wasn't the kind of money and investment nationally, certainly not in the Southeast. And as other areas of the country invested in baseball, those Big West clubs, I think, got a little bit tricked into thinking that they were succeeding because they were doing it on a shoestring budget and in a gritty, blue-collar kind of way, instead of saying and being honest with themselves that we're succeeding in spite of that. And so not a lot has changed on the West Coast. The Pac-12 is kind of coming on. They've made some good coaching hires. USC and UCLA, of course, are going to the Big Ten, so who knows the deal is there. But in terms of, do we consider that a Big Ten program? Do we still consider that, success for the West Coast? I don't know. But I think that the Pac-12 is kind of coming on. They've made some inspired hires. You're starting to see some investment even in some places like Washington State. But these things take time to kind of shift. This didn't happen overnight. And what I would leave your listeners with is the state of play kind of out west. Imagine if, when we talk about how big a role the Big West played in that, imagine if 25 years from now we look up and, Southern Miss and Troy and East Carolina and Mercer suddenly don't really care about baseball, and they're not invested, and they're not really regional clubs year to year. That's how big of a shift we're talking about, because at those level of programs, that's what they were, Fullerton and Long Beach in particular, 25 years ago.
It was like B-roll for our conversation on the TV that I'm looking up on SEC Network right now is Jim Jarvis beats out a bunt single while we're talking about this, which is just perfect California shortstop baseball.
Yes, that is a very Cal State Fullerton thing. A guy with hair like that, choking up on the bat like that, laying down a bunt for a hit.
There you go. All right, local angle here. What did you see from Thatcher Hurd, and what might that mean for LSU moving forward?
I mean, it's big. I mean, I think what he did the last weekend of the regular season, it felt like almost like a toughness test that the coaching staff gave him after he gave up those home runs against Georgia and said, you know what? No, we're not pulling the ripcord here. You're going to go out there and fix this, basically, or you're not, and then we'll have a different conversation. So I think that was pretty big. I think it was a little bit of the same thing yesterday, where it wasn't pretty. And I've said on your air before that we kind of need to throw away the idea that he's going to be a guy that's going to come in and be, a poor man's schemes, if you will, in terms of possible dominance. But I wrote on the site yesterday, your listeners can go check it out, that this felt like a little bit of a path forward for LSU. I really like the look of this, the kind of piggyback Hurd Ackenhausen. And Ackenhausen was a guy who, before the season, was kind of talked about as someone who might sneak his way into the rotation. And other options and his own injury troubles at some point during the season kind of sidelined that. But he looked really strong, and he gives a very different look from Hurd. And sometimes it's less about how good are the guys you have on the mound and more about, hey, can you give teams different looks? Can you give them something different to think about to where they're not seeing the same kind of stuff in inning 7, 8, 9 as they are in innings 1 through 4 and in the middle innings? And So, look, I mean, the inconsistency is what it is. I'm not saying that everything has been fixed here, but it felt a little yesterday like maybe they found a little bit of something they can roll with moving forward.
LSU and Arkansas's fate pretty well sealed as top 8 national seeds, and the road to Omaha will go through their home ballparks. Their aces are going to pitch today. How much do you expect to see from Paul Skeens and Hagen Smith today?
I think fairly limited. I'd be surprised if they really push the gas on Skeens. Smith, that's kind of the starter he is. So I think we'll see pretty typical Hagen Smith stuff, which is 5 innings, 5 1/3. Yep. No more than 6, probably maybe 80 pitches. That just kind of is how they've used him. I would expect that kind of thing for Skeens as well, unless he's just super efficient, right? But it'll be my first time seeing Skeens in person. The schedule has just worked out where either Mark or Aaron actually saw Skeens in person. The schedule has never worked out for me, so I'm excited to see that, even if it's a slightly smaller sample. And the atmosphere should be great. LSU and Arkansas is not really that geographically close here to Hoover, but they're one of those fan bases that just turns up no matter where they are.
No doubt about it, and wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of them up in Omaha here in 3 weeks. All right, let's talk resumes for some teams, just in broad strokes. Arkansas, Florida, LSU, and Vanderbilt, I think, are just fine. But as far as hosting, Kentucky, South Carolina, Auburn, Alabama, do we think all 4?
I think if you talk about deserving, yes. But then we start to get into a really interesting conversation. And Mark Kingston, after South Carolina got eliminated a little bit earlier in press today, said, look, if you want to talk about 8 deserving clubs to host, then I think the 8 that you just listed off there are deserving. But it comes down to a couple of other factors. One is simply, what does the rest of the country do, right? Do conference tournament runs for other teams and other conferences shove out a South Carolina from that conversation, for example? The other thing is, let's be honest, the committee is made up of human beings. And how much political will there be? How much does John Cohen and the other ADs who might be pushing for 8 SEC baseball hosts, and I'm assuming John Cohen will be pushing for that. I mean, that's, he's dyed-in-the-wool SEC baseball guy. How much is he able to sell that versus there being a little bit of an artificial cap at 7? And if you're South Carolina, you've got to be feeling nervous because, hey, if there is an artificial cap of 7, guess who number 8 is right now? And that's South Carolina, and it's really easy they've made it an easy cut to make with how poorly they've played the last two days, including today when they got 1 hit by Texas A&M. So the whole thing this week is you're looking to not give the committee reasons to look sideways at you, and South Carolina has absolutely stepped in.
I just look at South Carolina. I've got an 8 RPI. I've got a 3rd strength of schedule. I got 20 quad 1 wins, and I beat Clemson in a series, and I swept Florida. I know it wasn't. Yeah. I wasn't over the last 3 weeks, but goodness gracious, if that was LSU and they didn't get a host site, I'd be furious.
Well, yeah, I agree. Let me be very clear. I agree, and I think, look, and maybe this is just a needed thing. Honestly, maybe this is one of those situations where a wonky deal here this season might lead to a bigger conversation that makes college baseball better. But if we're going to turn our noses up at the metrics you just listed off for South Carolina and turn up our noses at them as a host, then the fact that Kentucky might be with a number 2 RPI or whatever it'll end up being, the number 14 or 15 seed hosting a regional, really does open up a can of worms of, do we need to have a discussion about how much we value the RPI, or maybe finding some other metrics to lean on and maybe be a little more like basketball, where you got the net and you've got KenPom and you've got BPI and you've got Torvik, and they kind of all tell you something similar but a little different. Baseball doesn't have that, and I would like us to get to that point. And maybe this season, in a team like South Carolina getting left out of hosting, might be a catalyst to revisit that conversation. Or we may just find out that, hey, this year data-wise was just kind of wonky, and that could be on the table as well. But it's not just Mark Kingston saying it. A lot of coaches here in this league this week have said, look, Nick Mingione said it too, the metrics are the metrics, and if those metrics are going to matter, then this isn't really a debate. But it seems like a lot of people are suggesting that maybe those metrics won't matter.
I gave our listeners kind of a picture of the back end of the hosting bubble, because LSU figures to be 3, 4, 5 national seed based on how the next couple of days goes and what the committee thinks. And one of the things I was mentioning is the Big 12. Do you believe the Big 12 is going to get a host?
I think they probably will, because it would have helped if someone had won that.
Yeah, they keep losing,
outright, because then you could kind of at least point to that. But yeah, I mean, the Big 12 is in the process of really hurting themselves this week. As I got up to take your phone call, Oklahoma State was in a real battle with West Virginia, and no matter who loses that game, that's another host candidate coming into the week going to go 0-2. Texas now went 0-2. So that's not great, and none of them were in great RPI shape. They have like the opposite problem of the SEC, where they were all kind of not in super great RPI shape from a hosting standpoint, needed to improve it, and they've not done that. So the Big 12 is in a tough spot, and if anything, that might be what ends up helping the SEC from a conference perspective. The Pac-12 is kind of in a similar place. Stanford's a lock. Stanford will probably be a top 8. But Oregon State came into the week as a team that could have pushed their way into that discussion, and this week has not gone as well for them as they would have liked. So, if nothing else, maybe that, if we are looking at 8 SEC hosts when the field comes out on Monday, that ultimately could be kind of what pushed them that direction is, we have to get 16 of these. And how far down do you want to go before you just say, you know what, there are 8 deserving SEC clubs?
Joe, I know it's a busy week and a fun week. We appreciate you stepping away and taking a phone call. Get back to watching some baseball and enjoy 2 aces this afternoon.
All right, man. I appreciate it. Take care.
He's Joe Healy, part of D1 Baseball's SEC Extra team. Cannot more highly recommend a D1 Baseball's SEC Extra package, especially right now as we're getting into it. And they'll no doubt have some unbelievable regional stuff and hopefully super regional stuff for LSU fans to read. So if you want to go over there and give it a look, D1 Baseball, the SEC Extra package, there's a tab right there on the front page. It's 5-3. Alabama leads Auburn right now, and they are threatening with the bases loaded, and I believe nobody out if I can see that far. And Andrew Pinckney is just a stud. He just hit a missile to right field that'll score a run. It's a sac fly, but it was on a line. That kid is as good a player as there is in the league at this point. So Alabama adds to their lead. It is 6-3. They lead Auburn in the bottom of the 6th inning. When we come back, I'll get you ready for LSU and Arkansas. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Got a chance to sit down with my guy David Duvall today, this morning, for One Bath and Closets, and he's such a great guy, and he does such great work. He's been doing this for 3 decades. And we were talking about some of the services he's providing, some of the people in the Baton Rouge area as far as bathrooms go, and he said one of the things that he's seeing a lot is people with aging parents who don't want to move but may need some help upgrading their bathroom. David Duvall and his team at One Bath and Closets can absolutely do that. It might be a walk-in tub, maybe some other features that may be a little bit dated and need a little help, but they still want to stay at home. One Bath and Closets can help you with that if you've got a parent that's aging. On the closet side, he said the one thing he's getting a ton of is shoe storage. If you just don't have enough room for the amount of shoes that you have, your spouse has, David Duvall and his team see that every single day, and they can help you create more space in your closets. The website is onebathandclosets.com. You can go there to request a free consultation. You can go there to check out their great work. You can go there to look at the testimonials that back up how great One Bath and Closets is. And I can promise you this. When they show up to your home, they're not coming back 3 weeks later to fix a problem that already happened. That's not going to happen. They're going to do it right the first time and leave the competition behind. David Vaughn and his team at One Bath and Closets. Check out that website, onebathandclosets.com.
Our listeners fire up their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, anytime. Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Hey, it's Matt Musso. Join me Monday through Friday for your daily update on LSU baseball with Musso at the Box, presented by New Orleans Flooring. Wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, Google, and check out New Orleans Flooring. 2 locations, Metairie and Prairieville or NOLAFlooring.com.
The world's leaders in obesity research, obesity medicine, and obesity science are right here.
We're doing something that no one's ever done or trying to answer a question that no one's ever asked before.
Pennington is a real jewel when it comes to research.
We are finding the solutions to the world's worst chronic disease, which is obesity. Louisiana needs Pennington Biomedical.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco, voted best tacos 3 years in a row by
Charles Hennigrove joined me and Jimmy out for our new show, Live at Lunch, starting 11 a.m. on Memorial Day.
Can't shake this guy. Live at lunch, 11 to 1.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All right, let's get you ready for LSU in Arkansas. As I mentioned at the top of the show, and I mentioned with Andrew Hutchinson, and I'll mention again right here, third time in this 2-hour show, this is awesome in my opinion. I think there are a lot of you that love getting keyed up for a huge football game that's just the biggest deal, and if you lose, your season might be over. And I get that too, but there's a lot of stress that goes into that. And the NCAA tournament, when you get into basketball, I mean, that is just a white knuckler for 40 minutes of basketball. And there's a positive to that, and there's a negative to that, that there's a downside that could be so bad for you that your season could be over. And that's the case coming up here next week, which I'll be so fired up for the regional because that's the time of year that it counts, but it can also break your heart. Today, you can get the competitive juices flowing a little bit. Paul Skeens out there on the mound. Hagen Smith out there on the mound, 2 top 8 national seeds, 2 of the proudest programs in all of college baseball. And there's no downside. It's beautiful. Arkansas wins this game 8-0. I'm just like, well, all right. Go play next week. I mean, we'll obviously play again tomorrow, but like in terms of next week's the one that counts. There's no downside to this. It's just 2 studs, 2 great teams, 2 great programs, 2 great coaches, great environment, Hoover Met. No downside. I love it. Hagen Smith, and Joe alluded to this in the last segment, and I got it on my notes here to deliver to you had he not. But Hagen Smith has not been your traditional ace on this Arkansas team. He came out of the bullpen against Auburn twice, came out of the bullpen against LSU, came out of the bullpen against Alabama, came out of the bullpen against Tennessee, came out of the bullpen against Texas A&M. He's done that 6 times, and he's made 9 starts. So he's been a bullpen arm at portions of the year, which you already knew. He did that against LSU in the game that Arkansas won. But also, he's not been, like, super stretched. He's been a 4 2/3, 5-inning guy. He has not completed 6 innings of work in a single game this year. His longest outing of the year in terms of innings pitched was against South Carolina, where he went 5 2/3. His highest pitch count of the year to this point was 105 against Wright State. Then he went 112 a couple of weeks ago against Mississippi State, but that only got him through 5 innings. So I guess I used the wrong term. He's been stretched out. He hasn't worked deep into games. At times, he can have a little bit of an issue throwing strikes. He had 5 walks against Wright State. He had 4 walks against Louisiana Tech. He had a 5-walk outing against Mississippi State. Like, at times, there's been an issue throwing strikes, but the stuff is real good. I mean, you're going to see a left-handed pitcher today that can touch 96 miles an hour, may settle in a tick under that. We'll see. And his slider is awesome, and his competitiveness is awesome. And this is what I wanted LSU to see this week. I wanted to see a stud because you're probably going to see a really good arm next week at some point. And you get to a super, it's very likely you're going to see a really, really front-end arm. And then, of course, you go to Omaha, you're going to run into something. And I think it's good to see it. Doesn't mean LSU necessarily has to have success today against Hagen Smith, although it would be really nice if they did. But it'll be good to game plan for an ace, to stand in there against an ace, specifically a left-handed one, and to see how LSU battles. And I think that's really, really good for LSU in this game. So as far as the offense goes, like you can look at it and be like, oh, well, Jobert left on left. No, he's in there. He's going to start. He's going to play. I think Milazzo will catch today because he catches Skeens. I think that means Travinsky's going to be your DH. So you have to decide what you want to do with Beloso at first base or not. And then when you do in the outfield, if you want Pearson out there, you've got to kind of decide. I think today will be interesting to see what they do with Josh Pearson, being that you're seeing a stud lefty with a great slider. Does that mean not a great matchup there for a left-handed hitting Pearson who hasn't played a lot this year? We'll see. I would prefer they just leave him in there because you don't have anything to lose. And Josh Pearson, the Josh Pearson LSU had in June of last year and really May of last year is an asset. And if you can dig into that some way when it wasn't there in the summer last year and it wasn't there in the fall last year and it wasn't there early in this season, but if you can find it late, I think it's worth looking for. So I would like to see Josh Pearson in there in the 2-hole today. Let's go. If he goes 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts, okay, we know maybe moving forward might want to change the matchup there and maybe throw a different right-handed hitter in there, whether it be Travinsky in the DH spot, moving Morgan out to left, however you want to do it, but get some information from it. I'd like to see Pearson out there today. As far as Skeens goes, and this is what we've been talking about for 2 weeks, you're not going to see Paul Skeens go out there for 45 pitches. I just don't think you're going to see that. If you want to suggest that that's the best way to go about it, I'm not going to fight you on it. I just don't think it's what's going to happen. I talked about it yesterday. I talked about it today. Paul Skeens is 6'6", 240 pounds. He's 21 or 22 years old. He's made 14 starts, and he's going to go out there today and throw 100 pitches. That's really what I think. I haven't gotten that from anybody inside the program, but they let Thatcher Hurd go 100 pitches yesterday, and they're going to let Paul Skeens go 100 pitches. He's not going to go 122 pitches like he might next Saturday. He might next Saturday. He's not today, but he's not going 60. I don't think that's going to happen. And trust me, if they took him out after 60 pitches, you wouldn't hear me complaining about it, I promise. But I'm also not going to complain about him throwing 100. Weather's good. He's built up. He's a strong veteran pitcher at this level. He can give you 100 pitches. And he's facing a really good lineup. Going to go out there and execute pitches and be the guy he's been all year long. And then you put some ice on it. You tell him to enjoy his next couple days in Hoover, and you tell him that we'll see you Saturday next week. But this is a treat for a lot of folks to watch. Maybe the two best pitchers in the conference. The two pitchers that got the most votes for SEC Pitcher of the Year. Skeens won it in a landslide, but Hagen Smith got some votes for that, and they'll be dueling today. So you got to get done with Alabama and Auburn. But as far as LSU and what they can do, I think LSU could theoretically move up to the 2 or 3 spot nationally if you win the tournament. I don't think there's that much splitting LSU, Arkansas, and Florida. I think LSU's ahead of Vanderbilt. So theoretically you could, if that means a lot to you, then get out there and get those juices running and try to win this game. I think it's likely LSU's 3, 4, or 5, depending on how the next couple of days goes. And so that's what we'll wait for on Memorial Day. But should be a lot of fun. 4:30 is the scheduled first pitch between LSU and Arkansas. That is stretch time in Hoover. 7-3 is the score. Alabama in control over their in-state rival Auburn. Keep you updated on that with one more segment to go before we get on down the road for me, a 4-day weekend. So looking forward to that. Be back next.
This is On Palmer. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
The importance of doing this fortified program and offering it to people down here is, number one, the only real chance you're going to get to do this is when you put on a new roof or build new. And through companies like HUDCO, who's kind of leading the way in this thing, it's going to offer the customers a huge advantage in the insurance market and the price of their insurance.
You know, we're not looking to make a fortune off fortifying. We're trying to give you a better product than our competitor at the moment. I'm trying to do something that he can. I'm trying to give you something better. So a lot of these insurance shops, you're getting a re-roof, you're only paying your deductible. Let's sit down and talk about the fortified and let's see what it does to your insurance premium. You're getting a steal.
Yeah.
You're getting a brand new roof and a fortified certificate for your deductible, essentially. And I think we're rocking and rolling.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. Coming up on Fridays, OTB. We'll recap LSU, Arkansas, as well as all of the Hoover Day 3 action. Also, Rivers Huey stops by in the final hour. Off the bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Looks pretty good for LSU and Arkansas to start on time. Alabama and Auburn are playing in the bottom of the 7th inning. We've got an hour and 40 minutes until LSU and Arkansas are set to play. So things look good for finishing on time in Hoover. But you never know. Things get wild and weird in Hoover. You know, sprinklers break, grand slams in the 8th inning. you just never know what's going to happen over there. But it looks pretty good to start on time. So if anything happens over the next 7 minutes, I'll let you know. Just a quick prediction from me on LSU. I think LSU is going to get to Sunday of this thing. That's not probably what I would prefer, to use that many arms and play that much. But I think they're going to win today. And I think there's a good chance that they'll win behind Ty Floyd on Saturday. Sunday, it's just going to be a bullpen day for whoever's there. But I think LSU will get to Sunday of this thing, and I think LSU will still be the number 4 seed in the country. That's just my projection. A lot of things can happen, but most of it is centered around Hoover because Wake's pretty locked in, and then you got Florida, Arkansas, and LSU kind of jockeying. If LSU can maybe bump ahead of Arkansas here with a win, that'll give LSU 3 out of 4 against Arkansas and maybe improve the RPI, maybe bump Arkansas down a peg, get another win on Saturday. We'll see. But I think 4 spot is probably likely for LSU. So we'll see. We'll be fully reacting to it coming up on the show on Tuesday. Taylor's going to be in for me tomorrow. He's going to talk some Saints, going to talk to Mark Etheridge over D1 Baseball that's in Hoover. So he'll do an awesome job. I'm going to take a long weekend playing a little golf tournament. I'll be ready to rock when we get back here on Tuesday talking about the regional and what I think of the seeding job. But first, let's play Take It or Leave It.
All right, starting off here. PGA Tour player Joel Damon's caddy Gino set a Guinness World Record for golf holes played in a week. He played 2,000. Take it or leave it.
So if you do the math on this, he played 2,000 holes, and you divide that by 18. It's 111 rounds divided by 7, so about 16 rounds a day is what you're talking about here. I heard him talk about it on the No Laying Up podcast. About a 6,000-yard course, so short. He's got a cart. He's also a scratch player, so not spending a ton of times in the weeds looking for golf balls. He's rocking and rolling, and he was doing it with the express intent of breaking the record. So he had to have 2 scorers with him at all times. He had to play from the correct tees. He had to hole out every putt. So he was doing this for the purpose of it, playing 15 rounds a day. I'll tell you this. Back in my single days, I played 45 holes in a day. I played 18 twice and then another 9, and that was a lot of golf. I'm also not a scratch player, so I was looking for some golf balls over that time. I love to play a lot of golf, and I would go play 45 holes tomorrow if that was just what the plan was for the day. I don't know that I want to play that many rounds a day for 7 days. 16 rounds a day for 7 days, probably a bit much for me, so I will leave it.
The SEC announced that the Egg Bowl will be played on Thanksgiving night again this fall. Take it or leave it.
Couldn't take it anymore. I just love it. I love the Egg Bowl on Thanksgiving night. It is stress-free football watching. It is fun to watch the hatred between those two programs. They've usually got something on the line, whether it's bowl eligibility or whatever the case may be, a coach getting fired. It's not quite the same without Kiffin and Leach, which was great. Also underrated great was Houston Nutt and Dan Mullen at the end of Houston Nutt's time because they really didn't like each other. But I just love that. I would much rather watch that than the Steelers and Chargers play. I don't really care about that. I'd much rather watch 2 SEC teams go at it. So I've eaten too much turkey. I've eaten too much pie. I'd like to lock in on Ole Miss and Mississippi State in the Egg Bowl. So I'm pumped that they will be on Thanksgiving night this evening. I am way in.
All right, last one here. Michael Block is making more waves this week, saying he's a world-class wedge player and putter. He says if he had the length of Rory McIlroy, there is no telling what he would shoot. And just as an aside, he's currently playing in the Charles Schwab Classic.
Yep.
He has 4 bogeys and a birdie in his first 5 holes, so he's +3, and he's tied for 107th. He's only ahead of about 4 players.
Yeah.
So take it or leave it.
I will leave that he's a world-class wedger and short game player and putter. I will leave that big time. These guys are so good. And Michael Block's a great player in his own right, as they say. He's a great player, and he's won some Club Pro events in Southern California a bunch of times. He's awesome. And it's just the fact that these guys at the top of the game, at the top of the sport, are on another level. And I know that he's 45, and I know that he only hits a 260, and that's a huge disadvantage. And so you can't showcase the wedge game and putting game as much as you would like to on a PGA Tour track that's playing 7,000 yards. But Rory McIlroy is a better wedge player and a better putter than Michael Block, I would say. And he's a below-average wedge player on the PGA Tour most years. So, no, I think he's enjoying his shine. He's enjoying his day in the sun. He's enjoying his moment. And I'm not mad at him for it. Todd Graves apparently is getting on the mix too because he's wearing a Canes shirt today. He's got Canes on his right sleeve. He's doing interviews all over the place. He's playing in PGA Tour events. I'm not mad at Michael Block at all, but I'm just telling you, he's not a world-class wedge player or putter. He's a 45-year-old club pro who had the week of his life in the PGA, and it was a great story, and I'm thrilled it happened. But let's not get over our skis here. There are a lot of unbelievable players who can't compete on the PGA Tour because they're not quite good enough, and Block isn't as good as those guys. So just my take on that situation. All right, that's Take It or Leave It. Thank you, Jacob Beck. If you missed any of the show today, catch it on demand, 1045ESPN.com's on-demand page, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, or YouTube. It's always there. If you're looking for some Saints content, which we put out at 1:30 today, Hunt on Saints is our YouTube channel. We want you to go to Hunt on Saints, search it on YouTube, subscribe to it, so whenever we put up a Saints video, it goes right to your home screen. And they're usually only 10 or 12 minutes, easy to digest. They're segments from the show. I want you to subscribe to that. We've got Hunt on LSU as well, which is all LSU football. Today opened up with some seeding talk with Andrew Hutchison on the Arkansas Razorbacks at 1:15. And then some Louisiana schools and where they sit and what LSU's 4 seed could be in this regional next week. Damian Collins added to the basketball roster. That was at 2 o'clock, and thanks to Joe Healy for jumping aboard from Hoover. He is part of D1 Baseball's SEC Extra Package. That's it for me. Taylor's in the share tomorrow. Jimmy Ott's Game Time tonight, 6 to 8. Matt's about to drive you home. Enjoy the holiday weekend. I'm back Tuesday with a bracket in hand. See y'all next week.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's government taco, voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 22